I am very worried about Tom Aspinall and his chances against Ciryl Gane in a rematch. And that's kind of tough, man. You know? Ciryl Gane, this guy that's an excellent talent at heavyweight, the way that he's able to move, his striking, his improved overall game. Like, Gane's an impressive fighter. But by the same token, I think he's a dirty fighter. How many times do we see Ciryl Gane win a fight and he does something he shouldn't in there? Whether it's a low blow, it's an eye poke, it's a back of the head shot, whatever the case may be. There's always something in a Ciryl Gane fight. But the reality is, Ciryl Gane is a dang good fighter that is really, really feeling himself right now. And I think that his confidence is at an all-time high. Because outside of getting ran over by Jonathan Jones, outside of getting taken down and having a close fight but ultimately losing to Francis Ngannou, Gane has had the answers for everybody. And not only has he had the answers for everybody, but he is looking better than ever and is looking rather unstoppable. So what I want to do in this video is I want to kind of reflect on the first fight between Tom and Ciryl, talk about what I saw in that fight, talk about how bad I think Tom's game plan was and what I think that he's going to need to do in the rematch to have a shot at beating Ciryl Gane. And when I say have a shot, I'm not trying to sound like I'm a Debbie Downer here, man, but the reality is Tom Aspinall has been unbelievably inactive over the past couple of years. Now, granted, it's not really his fault, right? The heavyweight division was on ice for a while because of John Jones and the UFC and whatever the heck was going on there, and we thought we were potentially going to get Jones versus Aspinall. It never happened, and they did Jones versus Stipe, and Tom defended an interim belt against Curtis Blades in a rematch. I mean, the heavyweight division was an absolute disaster, to where heavyweight is a lot better now than it was just a few years ago. And then after all that time away, Tom comes back and can't even get a full round of competition in because he gets poked and raked in the damn eyeballs by Gane. That's the reality. People can sit up here and they can bash Tom Aspinall all they want. And believe me, after the fight, a lot of the PR on the side of Aspinall, I'd say that a lot of it is kind of whiny and botched. Right? I feel like they didn't do a great job from the PR angle. But the reality is, he's still the one that got gouged in the eyeballs, man. It's Ciryl Gane's fault that the fight ended that way. And I feel like people forget that, man. And I know that the sport moves on very, very quick. Ciryl Gane goes out there against Alex Pineda at the White House, UFC Freedom 250, and he's never looked better. He picked up right where he left off against Tom in that first fight and went out there and put on a masterful, clinical, surgical-like performance against one of the greatest strikers we've seen in the history of combat sports in Alex Pineda. And I know you could say, well, Alex was a middleweight and then a 205er, and he was daring to be great by adding on all that size and coming up to heavyweight, trying to be a triple champ, and I get all of it. And Alex had a few moments, especially in the first round. But outside of that, I mean, Gane was fainting up a storm, drawing out crazy reactions from Alex, landed a power jab on him, and was able to put him away. And I know that you could say, well, some of those shots were probably illegal, and I get it all. But the reality is Ciryl Gane looked fantastic in that fight, man. He's moving better than he ever has. He's sitting on his shots a lot more, and you could just tell that his confidence is different. And coming into a rematch against Aspinall, like, I think that Gane was very confident the first time, but given how inactive how Tom has been, having to get these surgeries on the eyeballs, right? I mean, like, it's just, the inactivity of Tom is very concerning. And how sharp Gane is looking. Like, he's in there getting the reps. He just fought Alex. He's been very, very active. Gane hasn't been on ice. And he keeps getting title fight after title fight after title fight, right? And now he wins the interim belt once again. He's like, I'm calling the shot. We're doing this thing in Paris, so we'll see if that's where it ends up being. But in the first fight, it feels like so many people just thought because of the way that the fight ended that Ciryl Gane, like, he's the champion. That's the way a lot of people are talking, like Gane's the champion. And there's no question that Gane had a really good first round, but so did Aspinall. Right, and obviously the visual was bad on the side of Tom, right, because his nose was bloodied up. Gane was getting the jab popping, landed a good left hand down the middle. He was picking and poking from range. He was shucking off some of the labored kind of blind takedowns that Aspinall was shooting on Gane, and that was incredibly discouraging, I'm sure, on the side of Aspinall. To where the game plan coming into that fight, it just didn't really make any sense to me, man. When I watched the fight back, I'm like, what is Tom doing? Bouncing around on the outside, trying to just blitz into range with that 1-2, and it's like, what we're learning about Gane now is you're probably not going to land that big shot on Ciryl. He's too slick. He's too elusive. He's too prepared. He's too defensively responsible. He rolls under shots very well. And he does such a good job of skating around the octagon that it is so hard to pin him down. To where Tom, in my opinion, unless he can somehow get a big old right hand or a high kick or a big shot through the guard of Gane that Gane just doesn't see coming, he is not going to be able to go tit for tat over the course of 25 minutes and win a fight against Ciryl Gane, in my opinion, given what we saw in the first fight and what we have seen from Gane recently. Now, Gane's always been a really good fighter, and I feel like he kind of was overlooked coming into the first fight with Aspinall, right? And I was kind of overlooking Gane, right? I'm like, look, Aspinall's starching people, closes the distance lightning quick. He can match the speed of Gane. He's got the power. He's got more power than Gane. He can put him away with a big old right hand. He can take him down at will, and that's just not what happened. But I feel like some of the game plan from Tom coming in, it was like, what was the idea here? We're just going to go, tit for tat from range against Gane, and we're just going to try to dart in and land that big right hand? That's not going to work. It's not going to work at all. And after that fight happened, we got to hear Jonathan Jones's reaction, and he kind of had a lot of truth to what he was saying there, saying that Tom's kind of a one-trick pony. And when a fighter's going out there and they're dispatching of all the opposition so quickly, you're knocking out a dangerous force in Sergey Pavlovich. You're just running through the competition. Anything Tom wanted to do with these guys, he was doing. He would shoot a blast double, put them on their back, submit them. Nobody's sprawling on Tom Aspinall. When he darts in with that 1-2, it lands on everybody. He's the one skating around the outside, setting everybody up and being the guy that's more nimble, closing the distance and being able to find that shot and get you out of there, to where Tom really wasn't battling any adversity. But Ciryl Gane is different than all of these other heavyweights, to where I don't think that Tom's just going to run him over. I don't think that Tom Aspinall is just going to land some sort of big shot on Gane. I don't think that Tom Aspinall is just going to go, tit for tat with Gane for 25? Tom Aspinall is going to have to come in with a brilliant game plan in order to beat Ciryl Gane, man. That is the reality here. And I'm a huge Tom fan, and we are rooting for Tom Aspinall. We want Tom Aspinall to beat Ciryl Gane and make him pay for all the cheating that this guy does, man. And listen, I like Ciryl Gane as a fighter. I think he's a fantastic fighter outside of all of the extracurricular things that he does. And the crazy thing is, and I say this all the time, in a lot of these fights that Gane, he has these guys hurt, and then he starts throwing the back of the head shots. He starts doing all these shenanigans. It's like, dog, you're winning the fight. Just do it clean as a whistle. But the reality is I feel like that's an element that when you come into a fight with Gane, you got to be worried about getting poked in the eyes. You got to be worried about being kicked in the balls. You got to be worried about getting hit in the back of the head. These are just, people can say it's cope, it's this, it's that. It's the reality. And I feel like Tom Aspinall is going to have a lot of hesitancy coming in here against Ciryl Gane in the rematch, and that can't be, man. You have to get in the face of Ciryl Gane. Because as fast as Tom is, as well as he closes distance, as good of a first round as he was having, where him and Gane were going back and forth, we've seen Gane be able to do that for long periods of time, to have the confidence in Ciryl that he can do that over the course of 25 minutes. Where Tom Aspinall, we haven't seen it. It's not to say he can't do it, but we haven't seen it. And a guy that has that closing, explosive power like Aspinall does, usually the first thing to go is what? The cardio, the gas tank. And especially if you can't get past that Gane jab that has been busting everybody up, the jab that was busting up Poatan, the jab that dropped Poatan, that ultimately sets up that left hand right down the pipe. Ciryl Gane will chip away at the legs, will rip kicks to the body. Like, he gives you so many things to think about, man. And he can match the speed of Tom Aspinall. So we're talking about, well, Aspinall is really fast for a heavyweight and the way he closes the distance. Like, Gane can match that. And Gane is more elusive than Tom. Tom leaves his chin up in the air. Gane doesn't. Gane does a beautiful job of ducking and rolling while keeping his hands up and his shoulders tucked. So that way his chin's not out there on a platter. He's a hard guy to hit clean. And outside of Tai Tuivasa landing that fluky right hand a while ago, right? Outside of that, like, nobody's hitting Gane clean. So in order for Tom to win this fight, he cannot come into the rematch hesitant. And I know he's saying, no more Mr. Nice Guy.
How are you going to be on the comeback?
Mate, when I come back, there is no more Mr. Nice Guy. Nice Tom. When it comes to MMA, he's gone. And I'm going full bad guy, I think.
You don't want to come in overly emotional to where you kind of just burn the gas tank quickly and you try to get a finish, you don't get it, and then everything just ends up going into the shitter. Like, you can't have that happen. But Aspinall needs to come in with a much smarter game plan, and I think that is getting in the face of Ciryl Gane, pressuring the heck out of him, bullying him in the clinch, looking for elbows, looking for knees, and he needs to be drilling the heck out of a rear uppercut. Because Ciryl Gane was doing such a good job of sliding out of the way, anticipating that straight right hand of Tom Aspinall to where he had a really good read on it. And I imagine that he will be doing a lot of the same things. But one of the things that you can get Gane to do, especially if you throw a looping hook, he will roll underneath of it, change his levels down, and those are going to be opportunities to where Aspinall can blast him with an uppercut, a knee up the middle, can throw a high kick off of a left hook, something. But the darting in and out of range, trying to land a big old 1-2, I just don't think that is going to get it done against Ciryl Gane. And shooting these naked, blind takedowns out in the center of the octagon against Gane, that's not going to work. It's just not going to work. And ever since Gane threw that left hand to where John beautifully got his head off the center line and was able to get a hold of Gane and dump him on the deck, Gane has been doing a much better job of not overcommitting on his shots and getting himself way out of position to where you could do something like that. So it's going to be on Aspinall to try to get Ciryl Gane to overextend, to overcommit on a shot to where he can then get to a takedown. It's going to be on Aspinall to back Gane up along the fence, to be able to level change, to be able to make this fight dirty. You can't sit out at range and go tit for tat, have these back and forth games with Gane. We're learning now that Ciryl Gane is just that dang good. You could say what you want about the back of the head shots, the groin shots, the eye pokes. I hear it all, man. But the reality is, at the end of the day, Gane is good. He's good. And he's a more technical overall striker than Aspinall, and he operates at a much higher fight IQ when it comes to the setups on the feet than Tom. Tom kind of throws this big old left hook that Gane can see coming. He darts in with the 1-2. Gane's prepared. Gane's prepared for the high kicks. Look at how fast Alex was whipping up those high kicks, and Gane was just like, boom, block him. The way that Gane is setting you up, right, getting the lead hand, dancing it around, feinting, shoulder fakes. He had Aspinall reacting, had him biting on all kinds of feints, had Tom feeling uncomfortable for what I would say is probably the first time that Tom has felt uncomfortable in his entire career outside of Pavlovich landing a hook on him. Because the reality is, I don't think Aspinall's running over Gane. I don't know that he's just going to catch Gane with a big old right hand. And I don't think that he is just going to shoot a blast double from the jump that's going to get in on the hips of Gane and just take him down and be able to just dominate him on the ground and ground and pound him out or find a submission. I think Aspinall is going to have to come in with a bully-like approach. I know Tom likes to be elusive and dance around on the feet and, play the cat and mouse game against Ciryl Gane. I don't think anyone at heavyweight is beating him in that game. Even guys that are going to be lighter moving up to heavyweight, I don't think they're beating Gane at that game. Nobody is going to beat Gane at his game. Outside of Aspinall exploding in, feinting a level change, setting up a beautiful shot, it is going to be unbelievably hard to catch Gane early in a fight with a massive shot. Maybe later as the fight starts to go, you make Gane grapple a little bit. You wear on him. You fatigue him. Take away some of that springy bounce that he has in his step. This is just one of those fights where Aspinall is going to have to come in with a very different approach than he did the first time. He's going to have to make it gritty. He's going to have to make it ugly because Gane is so good at avoiding the big shots. His range management, his jab, the way that he just keeps you guessing by mixing up the shot selection like he was doing to Alex, attacking the leg, attacking the body. And I know Aspinall was having a good first round as well. It was very competitive. It was just the fact that the visual looked bad on the side of Tom because he was busted up and bleeding. But it was close. But the reality is in a rematch, it's going to take a perfect game plan from Tom to beat Ciryl Gane because I don't think he's running him over. I still believe in Tom. I think he can get it done. But I think it's going to be a lot more difficult than what a lot of us, including myself, were originally anticipated coming in to UFC 321. He's got to make it ugly. He's got to make it gritty. And I will say that inactivity and coming off of the injury here, it has me worried for Tom coming into a huge rematch, one of the biggest fights that the UFC could put together in Aspinall versus Gane. I feel like we're going to have a little bad blood coming into this one. I can't wait for this fight, man.